Right now, while you're watching this video, part of your body is quietly destroying itself. Not in a bad way. Somewhere inside you, cells are literally swallowing up their own worn-out parts. Broken proteins, old, damaged power plants inside the cell, and then recycling all of it into brand new material. It sounds like science fiction, but this is a real biological process. It happens in every cell in your body, every single day, especially while you sleep or when you go a while without eating. Scientists call it autophagy. It comes from Greek, and it literally means self-eating. And here's the strangest part. This process, which sounds terrifying, is actually one of the reasons you're alive right now. So here's the question we're answering today. Why did your body evolve to eat itself? And what happens if this process stops working? The answer might change the way you think about hunger, sleep, and even aging. To understand autophagy, imagine each cell in your body as a tiny city. That city has a power plant called the mitochondria. It has factories called ribosomes. It has transport systems moving materials around. And just like any city, over time, things wear down. Power plants start leaking. Proteins get folded the wrong way, like a machine assembled incorrectly. If this junk keeps piling up, the cell eventually drowns in its own waste. This is where autophagy steps in. The cell wraps a membrane around the damaged material, essentially forming a biological trash bag, and delivers it to a structure called a lysosome. Inside, powerful enzymes break everything down into small pieces. And here's the clever part. Those pieces aren't thrown away. They get recycled into raw material for building new proteins and generating new energy. Your cells are running an internal recycling system, operating around the clock. Researchers have observed that this process doesn't happen at a steady rate all day long. It ramps up during specific windows, particularly when the body goes without food for a stretch of time and during certain phases of sleep. In other words, when you're hungry or when you're asleep, your cells take advantage of that downtime to clean house. Interestingly, this process was actually discovered quite a long time ago, but it took scientists decades to fully understand the molecular machinery behind it. Uncovering the mechanisms that control autophagy was later recognized with one of the most prestigious awards in science, which tells you just how significant this discovery turned out to be. Now, if you've been listening so far, you might be thinking, okay, so autophagy is just always good and more of it means better health, right? That's exactly what a lot of people assume. And that's exactly where it gets more complicated. Here's the counterintuitive part. Autophagy isn't always the friendly cleanup crew it sounds like. Sometimes it behaves more like a double-edged sword. Some studies suggest autophagy helps healthy cells survive tough conditions, nutrient shortages, stress, injury. But other research has pointed to something more unsettling. In certain contexts, this exact same self-eating mechanism can be hijacked by abnormal cells, helping them survive longer under harsh conditions too. In other words, the very mechanism that helps healthy cells endure hardship can, in some situations, also help cells that shouldn't be sticking around stick around longer. This is exactly why the scientific community is still actively debating and researching this topic. When is autophagy the hero, and when is it an accomplice? Right now, there's no simple final answer. It depends on the type of cell, the timing, and a lot of other variables researchers are still working through. This isn't a clean, black and white story, the kind you might see in other videos on this topic. It's more complicated than that. And honestly, that's what makes it interesting. So why would evolution design something this complicated and honestly this contradictory? Think about early humans. No refrigerators. No convenience stores open all night. There were long stretches with no food at all. A body capable of temporarily eating its own damaged or surplus parts to keep essential functions running was a massive survival advantage. Individuals with a well-functioning autophagy system likely had better odds of surviving famine. Over time, this mechanism got preserved and fine-tuned across thousands of generations. It wasn't designed to cure diseases or make you look younger, despite what some corners of the internet like to claim. It was designed for something much simpler, helping you survive until tomorrow back when nobody knew where the next meal was coming from. And this explains why, today, even though most of us don't worry about food scarcity the way our ancestors did, this mechanism is still fully intact in every one of your cells. It's just sitting there, waiting to be triggered, even though the world around has completely changed. This is where it gets personal. Have you ever noticed that after a really good night's sleep, or after going a few hours without eating, your mind feels unusually clear? That might not just be in your head. During those windows, without constant food intake, your body may be using that time to do cellular housekeeping. We're living in an era where food is available everywhere, all the time. Snacks within arm's reach, 24/7. A lot of us almost never experience real, prolonged hunger the way our ancestors regularly did. That raises an interesting question scientists are still exploring. Does almost never giving your body downtime to clean itself up actually make a difference over the long run? This remains an open question, and science is still working toward an answer. There's no solid, specific recommendation to draw from this yet. What we do know for certain is this. This self-eating process has been running inside you since before you were born, and it will keep quietly happening in every cell in your body tonight, tomorrow, and every day after that, whether you think about it or not. You don't need to do anything special to magically activate it. It's simply part of what it means to be a living organism. Here's something I found genuinely interesting while researching this topic. At the smallest possible scale, the human body is constantly balancing building things up against tearing things down, holding on versus letting go. Maybe that's not just a biology story. Maybe it's actually a decent metaphor for life in general. Sometimes, to keep growing, we also need to clear out the old stuff that isn't serving us anymore. So here's what I want to ask you. If your body quietly recycles itself every single day just to function better, what do you think are the things in your own life, not biological, but everything else that might also be worth recycling or letting go of? Drop your answer in the comments. I'm genuinely curious what you'll say. See you in the next video.